Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of AI Insiders. I'm David Berkowitz here with my AI powered specs that are totally useless during this call, but so I'll mostly keep this headgear off. Um, Very excited though because we've got some friends from South Africa joining and specifically Cheryl Ingle to go and talk to us through some of the latest in and where AI fits in with social marketing, content marketing, and I got to meet her colleague in New York not that long ago, and it's just been amazing getting to deal with their team that I've already been learning a ton from. So, Cheryl, great to have you.
It's really great to be here. I'm very excited to share everything that I know in this area.
Well. I don't think you'll be able to do that because I know you and the Ruby Digital team there were actually almost too many topics to choose from, and so but I know you've put together a lot for us, and again for those who might be newer here, we love these as interactive community conversations, and look forward to getting everyone else's thoughts as well.
Cool. So you can feel free to stop me at any time, of course. I sometimes get a little bit too invested in a certain section, and if you have a specific question, feel free to ask and I'll stop and answer those questions. But yeah, as I mentioned, I'm very excited for this opportunity to share my experience in social and particularly how we've used AI to enhance performance in that realm. Um, so what we will discuss is using the power of AI to drive real results in social media marketing. We'll explore how AI is already powering social media platforms like Meta, from algorithms all the way to building the ads themselves, and how marketers can use it to improve content performance and overall increase efficiencies. Ideally, the goal would be to walk away with 7 steps or just considerations on how to leverage AI's strengths without losing that human touch. Because, and as you'll see by the end of the session, at the end of the day, it's the combination of human led strategic direction fueled with machine intelligence that truly drives those results. So, to kick it off, where do we start? Social is changing. I say is changing, but it has changed actually. AI isn't coming, it's already here, as I think everyone knows, powering algorithms, tools, ad systems, and also every major social media platform. To market effectively today, we need to understand how deeply AI is embedded into this social media environment. Lots of word on the slide, but let me speak to the main points. Um, Step one is actually just understanding what the shift is in social platforms, what has actually changed. AI hasn't just changed how content is delivered, it's changed how content or how much content is being produced and the rules for standing out. In essence, AI now runs the social ecosystem. It controls what content is seen, meaning visibility is now algorithmically, which I always struggle with, earned and not chronologically granted. Back in the day, it would be you post as often as you want, and as long as at the top of the feed, someone will see it. That has completely changed, which means that social algorithms decide what users see, and this is prioritized based on engagement signals, which is actually just your behavior on social. So whether it be sharing a post, whether it be as simple as liking, not that that's a main driver, leaving comments, watching videos, how long you linger on a post, all of that is an engagement signal. And that determines the relevance of a post and whether it should be shown. It's not based on whether it was necessarily created by a human or whether it's at the top of the feed. So not only this, I need to turn on this laser. I think it will help a little bit. But yeah, so that was how AI runs the social ecosystem. But not only this, we also need to consider that there has been a content explosion across socials. I'm sure everyone's aware who's been on socials, just there's so much going on there. It's not only just flooded with content, but it's also very specifically flooded with AI generated content. The reason for this is that it's just frankly easy. So anyone can actually create content and share it. So everyone, creators, brands, bots as well, they're all using AI just to produce way more content. more content at the end of the day means more competition. So the old myth of quantity being required to stand out is no longer your competitive edge. What you really need is quality. This is because the bar and the barrier to entry is just, it's so low now that anyone can come onto social and just make a complete noise. It's being heard and making a true impact. That's the real challenge. So our battleground is actually quality and relevance of the content that's being shared. So audiences actually just scroll past filler because there's just so much. The feed is now optimized to skip content that doesn't connect. So if your content's out there and it's not connecting with someone within first, maybe not few minutes, but if it's just not connecting with someone, it's going to be shown less and less and less. So what you're trying to do is remain relevant to the need of your audience so as to not be skipped and actually just rank better. Platforms now reward content that gets strong engagement fast. And by engagement, I really don't just mean likes and someone just liking and moving on. It's literally how they interact with the post, whether they click on it, leave, go to the website. It's all those cues that go into it. Platforms reward content that gets the strong engagement fast, not just frequent output, but in fact, quantity without this relevancy now is not only ignored, but it also gets penalized by platforms. So if you're just sending out content for the sake of sending out content, the algorithm realizes that and you start getting penalized. So it's basically this need to have multiple posts clogging the feeds is what I call the outdated myth, because a lot of people say, well, just post more, just post more. That's a myth. And the reason I say it's a myth is there was truth in it back in the day. Back in the day, you wanted to post a lot because that's how the algorithm worked. Now it's outdated. It used to prioritize chronological, which is sharing quite frequently, being at the top. And now that is no longer the case. So if we actually look at where we were, so I'm just going to take a step back. This is what the social media algorithm sorting factors is. It's what it used to be. It's relevancy, recency, engagement, and post type. So I think it was until 2015, this was the basic algorithm for social platforms. And by social platforms, I'm mostly talking about Facebook because that was the one that was around the longest. I'm not talking about TikTok. It's not really relevant in this area. So what this was it's Facebook's EdgeRank algorithm, which was introduced in 2006. It determined the order in which posts were shared. And this is mostly just factors around engagement. What type of content? Was it video? Was it an image? How often did you post? So that's what I mean by recency. That was really important back then. And what's happened now is that by 2015, Facebook shifted to a machine learning based algorithm, which has only advanced now with the introduction of AI. So it's just continued to learn and grow. So what's happened is it's moved from something that looks a little bit more simplistic like this to something like this, where if this is actually simplified version, but it's essentially just data overload, information overload. There's posts coming in everywhere. The inventory is absolutely massive. And what's happened is it now considers more than those 4 or 5 factors, and it now considers over 10,000 factors to predict content relevance, which is the keyword, relevancy. At the end of the day, it sorts everything. It uses data, prediction models, rankings, everything that it uses is just to determine how relevant it would be for you. Sorry, I don't know if there have been any questions because I can't see, but just flag with me if there are. I just realized I can't actually see the chat.
Yeah. I'll flag anything as it comes up.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And as things do, then everyone's welcome to share something. So feel free to chime in the chat or raise your hand, and yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So relevancy. As you can see by the funnel here, is that it collects your data and engagement signals, any kind of data, and essentially filters it through. It predicts which post you would find most valuable, and it would rank them. So it will rank them, it will sort them into how it should display on your feed, because at the end of the day, it's becoming quite personalized, so it's your feed. And then it will send the information back through feedback loops, and it's just constantly learning. But the main difference is that it used to be, everyone used to think it was a sound formula, 4 pieces, 4 things that determined it, post quite frequently, and you've got the formula. Now there's a lot to consider, and you need to work with the algorithm now in order to actually perform well on social. Okay, so this brings me back to the point of noise and how noise on social is just easy, but getting heard is the challenging part. AI has shifted from a world of scarcity to one of abundance, where attention is the scarce resource, especially on social. Just there's so much on there. Like getting attention is the goal, really, for some people on social, is getting that attention so that you can eventually convert. And the only thing that earns that is the quality of the content and the relevancy. So to perform on social, you need to crack that formula of platform literacy plus content quality, and then that will get visibility. Overall, working with the algorithm and not against it. So now that we've considered step 1 of understanding how the ecosystem has changed, which is very important because you know exactly how it's changed in order to understand how to work with it. So that brings us to step 2, which is your response to this change. AI is already so deeply embedded into social platforms. You're not just manually spinning every dial anymore, which was a necessity back in the day, making sure everything was manually touched up to the T. You're setting the rules and letting the machine optimize on your behalf. To be effective, we must understand how platforms like Meta, TikTok, LinkedIn all use AI natively within their platforms. So to start off with, it's used within content optimization. So what that could look like is predictive targeting, which essentially expands your audiences based on the intent and behavior. So it will continually learn who that ideal market is. So it will predict that ideal target market for you, as long as you set the rules properly. Then it'll also smart bid. So smart bidding is adjusting budgets in real time to improve cost per result. So essentially making sure that all the budget that's fed in is used appropriately to get the key result, whatever that key result looks like. And you don't have to go in and put manual adjustments. It will automatically adjust based on your goals.
And there are a couple of questions coming in. One is getting your take on how the TikTok algorithm now differs from Meta's platforms.
Meta's trying to catch up with TikTok because TikTok's algorithm is far superior in certain areas. Meta had the base algorithm, how it used to work, that whole relevancy thing that I spoke about. It is now trying to catch up. So it definitely has this model now with AI learning and machine learning, but TikTok had it first. TikTok, I don't know how many people go onto TikTok, but on TikTok, it is the most up-to-date in terms of relevancy. It completely monitors where you linger, how long you stay, what type of items and content you share. It's honestly the best in terms of making sure that it keeps you on its platform. It's very captivating in that area because it's very good with its algorithm. Now Meta is actually trying to replicate that. So that's why they actually did away also with their chronological ordering, because people weren't staying as long. You'll see here that I think it's this one, AI curated content drives 60% more engagement on TikTok. It's not that one. There's a different one. There's a different stat that I can read out later, but it's just far superior in how it's actually functioning, and Meta's actually playing catch up at the moment, which is why there's been such a shift over the last couple of years on how it ranks and how it works. So it's trying to copy.
And there was a related question that came up in terms of even the meaning of engagement and specifically tied to what you're saying, like how consistent or varied does it, does the definition of engagement mean on different platforms, right? Like, do some value comments versus shares versus likes and other things differently, or what is that?
No, they're all typically the same. It's all a group together. So obviously some platforms have different engagement types than others, but most of the time it's a consolidated look. So it would be comments, shares, if it's a video, how often they replay, how much of the video they watch. It's all those interaction signals, anything like that, really, that they've engaged to some degree. I think they just have different weightings depending on the platform. So let's just say, for argument's sake, a like is maybe more important on Instagram, whereas the length of view is obviously more important on TikTok, because that's more important for their algorithm and based on the content that they share. So at the end of the day, engagement encompasses everything for that platform. So when we speak engagement, we're talking all those interactions, but the degree to which it's important differs by platform, if that answers the question.
Hopefully, if there are any other follow-ups, feel free to chime in, but appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So smart bidding, essentially adjusting budgets automatically in order to get the best cost per result. Then we've got objective-based delivery, which, in my opinion, is one of the best advancements. Essentially, you optimize your campaigns for the goal that you have in mind. And as you feed that data back into the system, it starts to understand who that ideal market is for. Let's just go something basic, like you're trying to get a purchase. It starts to understand who that ideal person is and who's most likely to convert. So it continuously educates the algorithm. That's objective-based delivery. Then we talk about native creative assistants. So in many social media platforms, there are built-in AI creative assistance tools, essentially. So what that looks like is Meta has Meta Advantage Plus, TikTok has Smart Creative, and what that does is it automatically tests and reviews your creatives for best performance. And it will also share the creatives that perform better than others. So it's just a lot smarter overall in terms of it doesn't just apply to optimizing your goals and like shifting budgets. It automatically optimizes the creatives that are used as well. So we have what's called platform level creative rotation. There's a lot going on there. But essentially what it is, it's a variety of creatives. They call dynamic creatives, and they filter them. So you put all your creatives into one ad for argument's sake, and it will adjust who sees what creative based on the performance. So I might see a different creative to you. You will see a different one because you've engaged with content like that in the past, whereas I haven't. I've engaged with a different type of creative. So it will dynamically decide who sees what based on the performance. And that's only really been an option since like AI advancements. And finally, I'm not going to repeat myself too much on this, but that's content discovery, which is this all impacts just your feed, essentially, which is AI learning. It creates social feeds using different signals, and that's what you see at the end of the day. And it's really all decided based on what's deemed to be the most relevant for you. And if you stop liking that type of content, you're probably going to stop seeing that type of content. And if you don't linger, you're not going to see it either. It wants you to stay on the platform. So AI-driven algorithms now power over 80% of all social media content recommendations. So on all social platforms, what you see is mostly powered by AI. 80% of it's powered by AI. AI, goodness, tongue twister. But yes, that is that slide. I don't know if there's any follow-up questions there. Don't be overwhelmed by the slide. It's some screenshots from the back end of Meta. I am definitely not going to go into it. But the idea here is to show you that it's all built into the system. You have to put all your, I call them prompts, but you have to put all that information in there so that you can better educate the machine so that it will do the rest. So tip is build better inputs and let the machine do the rest. From AI to ROI, at the end of the day, it needs to serve a purpose. It needs to convert. Whatever that conversion looks like to you. I mean, the conversion that they want is actually just impressions. They just want awareness. I know that's not a conversion per se, but that could be the goal. So it needs to have a purpose, or quite frankly, just make a purchase. So we do this by embracing AI as our performance marketing co-pilot and use it to the best of its ability. This brings us to step 3, which is adopting a performance-first mindset. So taking on everything that I've just brought in, putting it all together and being like, well, how can I actually get performance out of this? So as you can see with the previous slides, AI isn't just for content efficiency. It's built into the social ecosystem. It's a tool for driving those results, improving bottom line outcomes. So we're talking a lot about engagement signals. AI is not only predicts who will engage better, but also who will convert. So what can this look like? It's essentially optimizing for and targeting high intent users. I mentioned earlier about that whole optimization goal when it comes to creating a campaign. What that does is it uses predictive models to find people more likely to convert. If you educate it correctly, it will find more of those people. It will also help scale those high-performing ads. Again, not only with creatives showing specific creatives to specific individuals who will actually engage or convert with those creatives, it's the whole ad it's the ad as a whole. You can have multiple copy options, multiple creative options, multiple ad options. It will push budget to the campaigns that perform better. And those are the ones that will scale and grow. And then you're not necessarily manually trying to figure it out, and then you spend all this budget on this campaign that's actually just not working. Real-time campaign optimizations, using AI to automatically target, bid, and adjust creatives in real time. So again, the collective, it will optimize on the daily. You don't have to manually sit there and adjust it. Efficient budget allocation, so letting AI decide what it should bid on and where it should distribute the budget. Now, again, I put a disclaimer here. There is a bit of manual involvement that is required to do this properly, but it's a lot smarter now to know where the budget should go in order to get maximum ROI. So if utilized properly, this impacts the bottom line, where AI helps refine targeting and messaging to attract the most likely customers or clients, depending on who you're going for, leading to increased conversion rates. It also ensures that your marketing budget is spent to have the greatest impact and reducing wasted spend. ROI. I mean, there is a way that you can go on and do a manual budget allocation, in which case it spends budget, but you get no results. So what's happened now is the adjustment really allows for the best use of budget. Here we can see that performance is the purpose, and it's not just automation and time saving alone. AI can be used as a performance driver. In practice, using Advantage Plus, which I mentioned previously, but Advantage Plus is same as like TikTok's Smart Creative. It's the AI version. It's Meta's AI offering. And campaigns made with that or considering those aspects sees a 32% improvement in cost per purchase.
And we do have some more questions coming in here. What are the implications for A/B testing when algorithms automatically optimize campaigns based on performance?
So A/B testing has a time and place as well, especially when you want to know, you need to learn which one is engaging the most. So typically what I do is if the ads are very different, let's say they're very different from each other, there's completely different angles that we're going for and we want to test those creatives, we run an A/B test and we see what the data suggests and what it proves. But I always recommend those dynamic ad creatives so that we can jump between different creatives, but also these creatives are mostly slightly altered just to speak to a slightly different audience. And then those audience members, they see those creators where others see other creatives. But sometimes we need a test to know what actually works, because sometimes it's night and day. You do a test and it's clear that this was never going to work. Why would we want to continue wasting any budget on something like that when we've run an A/B test that's determined it's not going to work at all? So that's normally what I'd say, but there's still a time and a place for A/B testing. And that's not just for creatives, A/B testing copy, A/B testing the strategy behind the campaign, anything like that.
Appreciate that. There's a fascinating comment from Lisa that I'm curious how it relates to what you're seeing. And Lisa's saying the theme here is that AI is making advertising easier and more efficient, but I hear the opposite from my clients, that the ROI from their investments is declining and customers they gain from social media ads are churn prone. You seeing anything like that on your end?
So the whole thing is social is a little bit more of a battlefield now because of the excess content. So it's not just AI. You can't just run these campaigns with all set to max optimization based on the platform. It's just going to spend and you're not going to get the ideal results. You have to have a little bit of a balance between both. You need to have that human strategy. You need to have the AI tools to work together to get that performance. Now, social has changed with the fact that there's just so much content there, and just trying to get that the time of day is the challenge. So what's happened is it has had a knock-on effect in some cases, depending on the industry, depending on the clients, where the results haven't been as ideal because of what's happened to the environment. So we've also had to adjust with it. We can't just automatically turn on all of our campaigns for AI optimization, whatever that looks like. Just turn on all the AI optimized sections. It's not going to necessarily bring in the best results. It's a combined effort. I don't know if I'm answering the question. It is different case by case, but the change with this environment for social has made it more difficult, yes, because there's just so much content out there. There's just so much information that it is a bit more of a challenge to get those results.
I mean, I'm hearing this consistently. So very often my advice to them is to decrease their spend and focus on other channels, particularly organic and owned channels. So I'm just curious if, like how you reconcile that. I mean, I can't just be that they're doing it wrong, because I hear it everywhere I go. And I'm wondering if others are hearing the same thing.
I think it's also just a case by case basis. I know you're saying that it's everywhere, that you're hearing it everywhere, but it's also become, sometimes people say, well, you need to have organic and not organic. You need to have paid social, let's just say. You need to have it. Everyone needs to have it. But that's not always the case. I mean, back in the day, it was a little bit easier, but now it's a lot more challenging. So not everyone needs paid social. Not every client needs paid social. It really just depends on what they're trying to achieve. Sometimes other channels are just far superior. As you said, organic, it's completely case by case basis, but really sometimes clients or their target market isn't going to be found on social, maybe not paid social, but they definitely need to have an organic presence, as you mentioned. It really just depends.
David, if I can maybe just add 10 cents to what Cheryl shared there for Lisa. Lisa, something that we've seen not just within the social side, but in, paid ads as well, is that what you're explaining is definitely something that's apparent, but what we're realizing is it's forcing the strategic component to no longer be based on a quarterly or biannual, even annual cycle, but actually to have a higher degree of frequency of relevant messaging. So from a strategic perspective, we're now rising up to this challenge, and this is something I'm just sharing as a let's call it a company or agency insight that we've identified and that we're applying, is that we're actually putting a little bit more pressure on the client to ask them, okay, well, what is it that you believe is making your business still relevant? What is the offering? What is it about your product? What is it about your benefits and features based on the current state of your market that's still giving you that standout, edge? And we're now ramping up where you used to build a content plan, over a quarter strategy, and then you have your monthly content roll out. We're actually condensing that, saying and putting the challenge to them. So you got to give us more in terms of what you're learning from your industry, so that we can create more relevant content to speak at a higher rate, right? And by rates, I mean shortening the time frame from when we last had a content piece to stay more up to date and relevant with what the general sentiment or perspective might be. And in employing that, and especially the clients that have collaborated, that has stepped in to that process and understood what we were referring, we're seeing great results in that regard.
So I think what you're saying is that it's really about constantly iterating on product channel fit.
Yes. But I think what clients need to also become aware of is the demand that it's placing on them to no longer just rely on, the 5 benefits or features of their product and keep leaning into reiterating that. The question around why that is relevant is becoming increasingly more important. And there is a larger onus on them to provide business insights as to why their product is still on a weekly, monthly basis, the standout product to choose. And that messaging is what we're using to kind of get let's call it, client's perspective of what's happening on the ground from their side, not necessarily what we're gathering from the engagement or the results of the campaigns.
Yeah, I'd agree with Elbert on that one as well. I think that it's a conversation that needs to be had with the brand teams and the agency teams, and possibly even their sales and support teams, in terms of understanding what is the unique selling proposition of your products in your specific market to your target audience. I think that, kind of what Elbert was suggesting, at least what I took away from that, is that the brand, the product that has a responsibility to help inform the marketers or the agencies to help create the creative that will be targeted based on their unique selling proposition. That's basic marketing 101. If their brand doesn't take initiative of that and they're offloading it to the agencies or their vendors or their ad tech vendors, then that's not taking enough ownership on their part. And so there needs to be a conversation on their role in making sure that the creative is resonant to their target audience to accomplish their creative goals. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Earl, I just want to, you said something there, marketing 101, and I love that you mentioned that, because that is actually something that I have articulated to a client to say, what has AI done to your business? And they'll talk about automations and efficiencies and time saving and how everything's moving faster. And I say, well, why are we not then applying 101, marketing 101 at a higher rate? Why does that get excluded? Why are we no longer reimagining or re-articulating the benefits and features of the brand and the product? And when you do, like, we found that that's kind of where the penny drops.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that on mine as well.
Ebert, are you also saying that novelty is a factor here, that the messages have to change, and that they're, probably novelty and also timeliness?
I think Albert is more the expert, but I would just argue that it's not necessarily novelty. It's understanding who you're targeting to, where you're reaching them, what your message is, i.e. your unique selling proposition, and when is the best timing to reach them. Again, marketing 101, like Albert said, that's what it's not. We're making it more complicated than it has to be, in my opinion. But Albert, you can let me know.
No. So 100% correct. And the way we were explaining it, we would explain to the client is to just say, imagine you're now in a room, and where you usually had one screen or two screens with, a string of information, you suddenly have an entire floor to wall to ceiling screen, and it's all churning information. Now, so that's the noise that we're operating in. The question becomes, what is it that person that you're potentially targeting are finding most relevant in that time and space? And I mean, like, literally talking, let's say you've got a product that is a lifestyle product that really can only be afforded at month end, right? When salaries are being paid. So how is your product in that particular time of the month now suddenly adapting its benefits and features to speak to why it's now a good time to purchase it, right? So it's about genuinely diving deeper into the consumer or the customer's life cycle, right? And understanding on a higher rate, what are the decision behaviors that they have in a monthly cycle, instead of thinking of it on a seasonality or event-based cycle, which is what we used to do, right? And again, AI and the rate at which everything's happening is forcing us to recognize their environments is changing rapidly. So why is our messaging not adapting to what we anticipate their environment is? And so it's about adjusting the messaging to the relevancy of where we anticipate they are in greater increments in a set time frame, instead of just having one message run for a month, for example.
I think that actually takes us on to the next step, honestly, quite smoothly, which is monitoring sentiment to influence outcomes. Now, I know that doesn't sound like it's the next step, but I'll explain why. Essentially, what step 4 is AI powered listening tools such as Brand Watch, Sprout Social, Talkwalker. I mean, there's a bunch I could name forever. Brand 24. They detect brand perception, revealing how your audience feels, not just what they click, in real time. So what this could enable is alerts for spikes in negative sentiment or brand mentions. Now, this could be for you. You could turn it on for competitors. You could turn it, all you really need are keywords. So what you can also do there is you can monitor what's been spoken about within the industry as well, to the day, to the minute, what's relevant, I guess. This is also something that these types of tools unlock, is what's currently relevant in the industry to the day, to the second, as long as you've got your keywords right. But not only can it do that for relevancy, it also just ensures that if something happens and something negative about a brand is mentioned, it will notify you about spikes in negative sentiment, or if it's particularly negative, it will notify you so that you can act quite quickly. So it really helps with crisis detection from tone and messaging shifts. So essentially what could happen is you have everyone talking about your brand, talks about it in the same way or similar way, and you've got a general negative sentiment or general positive sentiment. What will happen is that changes it all in the tone and the messaging of what's being said across the web, because it's not just social, it detects across the web. If anything shifts, it will let you know that this message has changed about your brand or your client's brand, anything like that, so that you can act faster. So it's also got data to inform content, tone, and messaging. So what should your messages be about? What should your content be about? How this is the current issue that's being faced. How do I change my messaging? How do I speak to that need or that issue? So essentially, day-to-day, real-time, it will let you know how that tone messaging needs to be shifted. Essentially, sentiment is also a leading indicator of performance and trust, making this an important step in a performance-first mindset. Yeah. It's proven that brands that actively monitor social sentiment adjust their messaging almost 2.5 times faster and experience 29% stronger audience response. So essentially just staying on top of what's being said, what's being mentioned, make sure that you've got the opportunity to act quicker and adjust faster. So again, adjust your messaging to speak to a need or pain point in real time. Step 5 would be to automate the mundane, the one that everyone knows about. So essentially automating what you don't necessarily want to do and what you don't need to do, automating those types of tasks. So where it comes to social is there's a few things that can be automated. I use it as a disclaimer though. There is a disclaimer that comes with this one. Community management and AI term detection with an automated response. Essentially AI chatbots to handle FAQs and DMs. This allows for 24/7 engagement and faster response rates, which are used to build trust. Now, I never recommend, just turn on all the automated things. I mean, it's fine. People want like human contact as well. But what we also want is speed. No one really has patience these days. If someone takes a long time to get back to a question, sends either a comment, sends a DM to a brand, and they take a long time to get back, you've already moved on. You're on a different planet at this point. You're not really going to respond, or you're not going to care necessarily anymore. So what we do is we use it to try and fill that gap of time before you can get someone in to respond and engage. So to try and give them easy access to frequently asked questions, quick responses. We will get in contact with you at this time, kind of managing that conversation. And that's just for basic community management, but there's also AI term detection, which allows you to respond to set comments if certain terms are used. Then we've got auto modding tools, which are set to filter spam, hate, or irrelevant comments. So what can happen and what people see is the bots in the comment section. So there's nothing real there. It's literally just spam of any kind. Sometimes they're saying things that can actually damage a community, can damage a brand. So what we do is we use those filters to make sure that we can hide or delete those types of spam comments, or to hide something that is a hateful comment until you can actually act on it a little bit later. So it gives you time to go and act on it and then decide what to do with that comment and how to respond or engage. And finally, you have smart schedulers, which is AI-assisted timing to post at optimal times based on historical data. So every time you post, it's tracked how that post performed, who engaged, why they engaged, when they engaged, all of that information. It uses it all to decide what the optimal time is to post and what time that would be to get the optimal results. So here you can see an example of those automations that I was talking about. This is just a meta example. There's automations everywhere, but this is just a basic example of the types of automations that can be built into Meta to try and navigate these conversations or to engage quickly if a set keyword is used. This can also be used like in competitions when there is a set keyword that's used for a competition. I mean, you might see that in some posts where they say comment Apple if you want this, this, and this. So then as soon as they comment Apple, that triggers an automation that sends them all the information that they need about a competition. That's just a loose example, but that's typically how it's been used. Okay, this is a little bit of a larger section. We can now look at how AI is reshaping content creation, but in performance marketing and not just how the platform utilizes AI. Content isn't just about looking good. It needs to convert. Every piece we create serves a purpose to drive action, to generate some kind of response, generate leads, increase sales. AI is helping us do this faster, smarter, and more efficiently. So there is a little bit of a debate, especially when it comes to design, but should AI be seen as a competitor or collaborator? The reality is that 94% of marketers use AI as at the very least, at a starting point for the creative process. So AI isn't here to replace us. It's just here to enhance our ability and to create high-performing content when used properly. So this is my opinion, but content that doesn't drive action is just decoration. Just my personal opinion is it's just decoration if there's no intent behind it. But there are 3 key pillars of high-performing content: relevance, clarity, and urgency. AI can help in writing content that follows this formula. However, if it's left to its own devices when going in to write content without some clear guidance and clear learnings, it can pull from multiple other data sources and follow a formula that isn't best for generating results across social. So there is a human element that comes into play, and it's actually a necessity to get this right. But what these pillars are is relevance. So again, speaking to the need or desire, clarity, simple, direct, action-focused, and then urgency, create a reason to act. And depending on the piece of content, to act now. So AI doesn't guess, but as mentioned, if left without clear guidance, it will pull from any of its millions to billions to trillions of data points. If left to its own devices, it will do what it wants. So the human element is very important in providing this guidance and relevant data to ensure it learns correctly. If educated correctly, it will be an asset in improving content performance. From speeding up ideation, just generating multiple versions in seconds. Again, definitely needs a human assistance there before we're going to have like some wonky hands in all the content. Optimizing messaging such as headlines, call to actions, so on and so forth. Assisting in personalization, unique messaging per audience segment, unique and relevant messaging, and helping inform strategic decisions as it is able to test and validate content. So personalizing, this brings us to the next step, which is step 6, personalizing and enhancing creative content with AI. AI helps you speak to the right person in the right tone at the right and appropriate time. AI can dynamically adjust headlines, offers, and imagery per segment. And when we're talking about like imagery, actually talking about tools like Adobe Firefly, Canva AI, PixArt, again, a whole host of tools that can also help remove the need for expensive shoots in some areas and for some clients. So what this enables is, again, those personalized subject lines, dynamic messaging for different audiences, keeping brand voice while scaling personalization. So you don't just have to have brand voice with everything. It will maintain that and make sure that it's still unique to each person viewing it. It can also be used to generate lifestyle imagery and visual variations, which just improves the quality of those visuals, which I'll give you an example of in a second, and eventually better performing ads and posts. Product shots enhanced with AI generated backgrounds. Again, sometimes we have a challenge where we don't have decent imagery that's high converting or doesn't have, it's not situational imagery. It's lacking. So we can use AI to enhance it by improving lighting, depth, mood, context, all of it. And it also just avoids the need for costly or time consuming photo shoots. To sum it up, personalized journeys lead to an increase in relevance, which leads to quality engagement increasing and then eventually conversion rates increasing. So if it's a few stats would be on Meta, dynamic creatives over static can lead to a 30% improvement in conversion rates. I have tested this, and for me, it is very true that those dynamic creatives and all that variety of options definitely leads to an improvement in conversion rates. On LinkedIn, dynamic copy and creative variations also see a 22% higher engagement rate. An example. So this is just a generic example of an AI-generated piece of content that has been adapted with the human touch. So essentially, overall, the AI-generated content here is technically correct, but it lacks emotion. So what we can see is the headline, just going to read the one simple part, get 50% off sneakers, limited time offer. And when that was adjusted, it went to your new favorite sneakers, now 50% off. And the reason why that performs better, especially on social, is because it's kind of conversational, it's engaging, it speaks directly to the person. It creates this feeling of just connection or desire. And it uses a bit of intrigue and curiosity by still not dampening what the actual offer is. Then AI isn't just transforming copy, it's solving creative gaps. Here are some before and after AI enhanced images. The challenge here was that the client actually just lacked lifestyle imagery. So as you can see from the left-hand side, it was just all the base images. Just by the way, these were even enhanced from the original base images. And then they were converted into different posts and ads. And what we needed to do here was basically generate some backgrounds with AI, so to turn these basic product images into premium lifestyle visuals. So improving image quality, enhancing the depth, improving the lighting, adding some context for a more polished and aspirational look, because the idea for this strategy was aspirational look. Then the result was just engaging creatives to increase performance across social. It essentially just AI filled the gap that was here. Just a few more examples of AI filling the gap when the resources were limited. Because again, if we've got great product imagery or lifestyle imagery, we use it. If we don't, we need to try and close that gap to still get performance. This one is how it looks in practice. So this is the before and after of a feed. Do note that the product quality here was identical. The product had not decreased in quality or increased in quality or anything. It was the exact same product. It's just the process in representing the product that changed. So essentially we went from this being on the feed, just photos of it and no real context or ideal placement. And then we moved on to this array. So what actually happened here was we just used the resources that we had and used AI to generate backgrounds. And it was the same example as the previous slides. But did this actually translate into results? Well, these AI-assisted creatives led to a 650% increase in engagement. So I'd say it definitely led to results in this case. Better visuals, stronger messaging, and optimized content, all faster, more efficient, and better performing. We also use AI to validate our creatives against platform best practices. So here's an example of some funky socks in an ad. And essentially what we did was we asked AI to analyze it based on all the education that we gave it and say, well, we want conversions here. And what it did was it gave us feedback on what worked and where it could be improved. So AI said it was strong visuals and messaging. However, it suggested stronger personality in the ad copy, as well as an element of lighthearted urgency. And then it also recommended some social proofing, such as love by 1,000+ happy feet, just to add that extra element of trust. So what we did was we took all that feedback and turned it into this. And we had two options where, because there wasn't anything fundamentally wrong with the previous one based on the goal that we had, we essentially had more options. And that was fed into a dynamic creative, a dynamic ad, which would show this ad to someone who's more likely to engage with this life's too boring. That's not the truth. Life's too short for boring socks. Or it would show it to other people for if they just want to know what like the USPs are of these socks. So it would adjust based on that performance. Essentially what we did was we used AI as a creative consultant to inform our decision here. Another example is where we tested these two creatives. Creative one at the top is designed with a large product image, bold text, and a clear discount offer, just being the exclusive discount. And then creative two was product-focused design. You can see 3 very clear products featuring sharp images of multiple units with a vertical 20% off, emphasizing trust cues and badges of the brand. So there's badges of the brand here, and just emphasizing that it can be trusted. So AI determined that based on the design structure, creative one with its bold, high-impact visual, this one with large product image and emotional appeal is best for engagement and awareness, where creative two with its clear product focused design and technical credibility, showing like all the badges and everything, would be best for conversions and clicks. So what ended up winning in the end was a hybrid approach, where we took the creative's high impact, so this layout, and visually bold design with creative two's strong product focus and credibility, so the trust cues, alongside the discount offering, and we combined them to try and get the best of both worlds, where we focused on boosted brand awareness and stronger conversion performance. This brings us to our final consideration, which is step 7, AI plus humanization equals max ROI. AI is an accelerator, it's not a replacement, because AIs are good at a few things and we're also good at things. So using them together is the best combo. AI excels at analyzing data, learning from that data, optimizing content, generating content at scale. Where humans excel, it's that strategic thinking through experience in the context of the overall big picture that AI typically lacks, brand consistency, that emotional connection, as well as leading in the refinements that need to be done to achieve goals. So just overall understanding the bigger system at play and everything else that needs to be considered for the project. AI is the engine, but humans are the drivers responsible for fueling the engine with the correct information and steering it in the correct direction, because otherwise it's just going to drive everywhere. It won't really have any method to the madness. So how do we actually humanize AI? The answer is blending AI with human intuition and expertise. AI speeds up content creation, but the human touch makes it engaging, authentic, and valuable. So why does humanized content actually win, especially when it comes to social? Firstly, various algorithms such as social platforms favor humanized content, the content that's more real, content that connects more. It favors it, so it works in the algorithm's favor. So you need to, even if you've got AI generated content, it has to be humanized if you're going to work with the algorithm. Then there's the point of stronger customer or client connection. Human content builds trust and lasting loyalty. They want to connect with a person, not a bot. So some tips for humanizing AI content would be to be concise, cut jargon. AI absolutely loves jargon, so just keep it clear. Add real stories. When it comes to social, relatable, real content is what speaks to a need or experience. Someone wants to feel that someone else has the same need out there, that they're heard as well. So that always wins, and the algorithm always favors it. And then fine-tune AI prompts, define tone, brand, voice, and messaging. Also, just educate the algorithm and AI. AI doesn't replace great content. It's a force multiplier. So it enhances and it improves efficiency only if used correctly, because there's an incorrect way to use it. Okay, that is actually everything. So yeah, I'm doing, just to wrap it up in the 7 points, and then we're good. It's number 1 is to understand the AI shift in social, and how it's just changed the entire social ecosystem. Second one is let the platforms do the heavy lifting. That's how we respond to this shift. Adopting a performance-first mindset so that we can use it to our advantage to affect the bottom line. Monitor sentiment in real time. Automate the repetitive. Personalize and enhance creative content with AI. And then blend AI with human intelligence. Considering everything, the future of performance in social media marketing is AI-assisted, but human-led. And yeah, that is it. And I don't know if I missed more questions.
Yeah. Well, any other questions left? We might be all set as we run past the hour, but we can make sure to. We'll be sharing this around. What's the best way for anyone to get in touch with you to follow up as well?
Oh yes. I think the best way to get in touch with me is my email. Let me put the email in the chat, actually. Probably the best way. And stop sharing as well. Okay. Pop it in the chat quickly.
So, Cheryl, I don't want to keep you too long, but I just had a quick question before we hop off. You mentioned a couple of things that the audiences seem to respond to regarding, say, speed. And I think the words I used were speed and authenticity. And I think you used the word relevance. I was curious, based on your findings so far with the clients you've worked with or the research you've done, which value have you seen more impactful for creative performance?
Do you mean out of what I was talking about with relevance, or
yes?
Do you mean anything else in addition?
Oh, just regarding the creative performance, I guess the word you use is relevance. And I think there's another word you use for speed, but I think urgency was the word, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes. It was, so we need to make sure that we're speaking relevantly to that audience, making sure that it's the appropriate information at the appropriate time. So it's the whole idea of unique messaging that goes through. So need to speak to their needs or a desire. I mean, it really just depends on what you're trying to pitch, but you need to speak to what they'd be interested at that time. Mm-hmm. So it's relevant, making sure that the content is relevant to them and not just relevant about the brand. I think that's something people get confused about as well. It's like, well, this is relevant to our brand, but it's not relevant to the audience. So it's just trying to get that balance. And if you're speaking to them, because I mean, they don't care about the brand. They care about how it could affect them, how it could benefit them. Yeah. So it's really just changing that angle and that narrative, mm-hmm. and then getting it at the right time and adding a degree of urgency, because again, people are like, there's so much to go on there. If there's that urgent side, then they like compelled to act faster. It's going to disappear. So they're going to take that time. Otherwise, they're just not going. It will come back. They just move on, and then there's more content for them to digest, and then they've forgotten about it. It's people's attention span. It's so limited these days with all the content that you kind of have to get them at that time.
Yeah, got it. Thank you so much. This is a great presentation, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Cheryl, Ebert, everyone who participated. So, ton of fun. I mean, jam-packed with great info and examples, and I know, plenty of folks will want to go and watch this straight through again. And so glad you could join us, and just great to have so many global perspectives as well, and just hear so many of the related challenges we're all facing, and so many great ways to learn from each other. So, yeah, thank you one and all, and look forward to seeing you next week in a future AI Insiders events.